Before the first sunrise, before the oceans found their shores, before a single human breath disturbed the silence of the world, there was already a war. Not a war of nations, not a war of men, a war fought in a realm your eyes were never designed to see, a war that did not begin with weapons, but with a thought. One single, devastating thought. And everything you know about evil, about temptation, about the darkness that moves through human history, it all traces back to that moment. This is not a story the Bible tells in one place. It is scattered across the scriptures like fragments of a shattered mirror. But when you gather the pieces, the picture that emerges will change how you read everything else. This is the war before creation. Most people know the name Satan. Most people know there was a fall, a rebellion, a moment when something went terribly wrong in the heavens. But very few have stopped to ask the real questions. What exactly happened? Where did it happen? What did Satan actually want? And why does it still matter right now in your life? By the end of this video, you will understand not just the story of Satan's fall. You will understand the origin of evil itself. And you will see why every temptation you have ever faced carries the same signature, the same whisper that started this war before the world began. Stay with us. To understand what was lost, you have to understand what existed before. Before the earth was formed, before Genesis chapter 1 opens with its famous words, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." There was already a world. Not a physical world, an unseen world. A realm of spirit, of order, of breathtaking beauty and power. The book of Job gives us a glimpse. When God laid the foundations of the earth, he asked Job, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation, while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy?" The angels were already there. They witnessed creation. They sang at its birth. Which means before Genesis, before the stars, before the oceans, before the garden, there was a living, ordered, glorious realm of spiritual beings. And at the center of that realm was something the human mind can barely hold: the throne of God. Not a symbol, not a metaphor. A real seat of absolute power, absolute holiness, absolute glory. And surrounding it, angels. Not the soft, gentle figures of greeting cards, beings of terrifying beauty and unimaginable power. The prophet Ezekiel saw them and collapsed. Isaiah saw them and said, "I am ruined." These beings existed for one purpose: to reflect the glory of God, to serve, to worship, to carry out His will across the unseen cosmos. And among them, highest of all, was one whose name would become the most feared in all of Scripture. His name before the fall is never fully given in Scripture, but the prophet Ezekiel describes him in language that stops the breath. "You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created." Read those words slowly. Seal of perfection, perfect in beauty, blameless from the day he was created. This was not a minor angel. This was not a servant running errands at the edge of heaven. This was the highest created being in existence, anointed, appointed, placed at the very throne of God as a guardian. This was the being the world would come to know as Satan. And he was perfect, which raises the only question that matters. How does something perfect become evil? The answer does not begin with violence. It does not begin with an army, a weapon, or an act of destruction. It begins somewhere far more dangerous, inside. Ezekiel tells us exactly when everything changed. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, till wickedness was found in you. Till wickedness was found in you. Not given to you, not placed in you, found in you. Evil did not come from outside this being. It emerged from within. And Isaiah chapter 14 tells us what that evil was. God speaks directly to the one who had fallen and records his inner voice. 5 sentences that contain the entire origin of evil. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. 5 times, I will. Not your will be done, my will be done. This is the first act of rebellion in the history of existence. Not violence, not cruelty, not destruction. Pride. The desire to take a position that belonged only to God. The conviction that a created being deserved the throne of the Creator. And in that single internal movement, evil was born. Now, what happened next? The book of Revelation pulls back the curtain. Chapter 12 gives us a vision that spans all of time, past, present, and future collapsed into a single image. Then war broke out in heaven. 3 words that should stop every reader cold. War broke out in heaven. Not on earth, not in the wilderness, not in the depths of some dark realm. In heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. The dragon, Satan, did not fall alone. He took others with him. The scriptures suggest that 1/3 of the angels followed his rebellion. 1/3 of the most powerful beings in existence chose pride over obedience, autonomy over worship, self over God. And the result? The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Hurled, not gently removed, not politely escorted out. Hurled. The being who was once the seal of perfection, the anointed guardian at the throne of God, cast out, separated from the glory he had tried to steal, falling from the highest point in existence to the lowest. Jesus himself, centuries later, would describe that moment in a single line. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Like lightning. Fast, violent, final. Now here is where most tellings of this story stop. Satan fell. He lost. End of chapter. But that is not where the story ends. That is where it begins. Because the war did not end when Satan was cast out of heaven. It moved. It followed creation downward. It entered the world God was building. Think about what this means. When God created the heavens and the earth, when he formed the seas and the mountains and the living creatures, when he planted a garden in Eden, Satan was already fallen, already cast out, already burning with a hatred that was no longer directed at God's throne, but at God's most beloved creation, humanity. And so the serpent entered the garden, not with armies, not with fire, with a question. Did God really say? Do you hear the echo? The same voice that said, I will be like the Most High, now whispers to the woman, you will be like God. The same temptation, the same lie, the same desire. What failed in heaven, Satan attempted again on earth, and this time it worked. Because this is not ancient history. This is the architecture of every temptation you will ever face. Every whisper that says you deserve more. Every voice that says you don't need God's boundaries. Every thought that says you can be the author of your own reality. It carries the same signature. I will ascend. I will be like the Most High. Satan does not invent new lies. He has only ever had one, and it has worked across every generation, every civilization, every century of human history, because it touches the same place in every human heart: the desire for autonomy, the desire to be our own God. The fall of Satan and the fall of humanity are not two separate stories. They are one story, one war, begun before the world existed, still being fought today. The Bible does not give us a Hollywood script of what happened before creation, but it gives us something more powerful. It gives us the truth behind the story. A perfect being, a single corrupted thought, a war in heaven, a fall, a garden, a lie. And echoing through every chapter of Scripture that follows, the same question Satan has always been asking: will you trust God, or will you take his place? That question was asked before Eden. It was asked in Eden. It has been asked in every human heart since. And the answer you give is the most important thing about you.